What's going on, YouTube and Gen X? All right, back to business as usual. I'm done with the whole beauty conversation. It's a dead end anyways. All right, this is a very important video for just men in general. I got a email a while ago, and I apologize for the delay. But it was an email from a young man who was about to begin his third year in college. And he does have a girlfriend, and he recently came across YouTube and Gen X, and he was listening to the whole conversation on pre-success dating, right? And he asked me what I think he should do, considering um, some of the issues that Captain Solo and Willie P brought up about pre-success dating, excuse me, and the fact that he has a girlfriend right now. He wanted to know, should I break it off or should I proceed? And here's my take, man. I can't tell you what to do, but all I can do is share with you this information, and you can take it and use it at your own discretion. I want to start off with a story that my father told me that kind of covers pre-success dating. And when he told me this, I didn't understand what he meant, because I believe I was, like a second year in college. I was around where you were. And I didn't really comprehend it as well as I do now. Now, he told me about a coworker, right? Um, the coworker had a girlfriend in college, okay? And the coworker, he had some issues with money. He didn't come from a family who can support him. But his girlfriend, she came from money, right? So she had money not because she was working and not because, her shit was together, but she came from money. And as you know, in college, sometimes your dad will let you suffer a little bit so you can learn how to fend for yourself. But when it comes to women, they're more so inclined to help out their daughters financially because they don't want them to struggle and they don't want them to be at the mercy of any man. And I've seen it happen before. In school, it always seemed like the women had more money, and it wasn't because they were working or whatnot. It was because their parents, especially their fathers, were more willing to give them money so that they, like I said before, they weren't at the mercy of a man. And that even extended to cars. When I was in school, more of the women had cars, once again, because the fathers didn't want them to be at the mercy of a man, right? Whereas the dudes, a lot of us had to struggle, to the point where um, we would cut each other's hair and whatnot, and the girls, they had the money to go off and get their hair braided or, go to the salon every 2 weeks, and we could barely afford to get a haircut. So we had to find out whoever cut hair and, and wait till he can fit us in. Literally, you got a haircut whenever you could find somebody to cut you up. Obviously, that changed the older we got, but it was like that for the first 2 years. Um, so that was his situation. He didn't come from money. Excuse me, but the chick he was dating, she did come from money. And he had some trouble paying for his tuition and whatnot, and she helped him out for about a year. Now, pay close attention. She would give him a check, right? And on the check where next to the signature line where you can write what it's for, she would put his name, so let's say his name was Ben, for Ben's tuition, right? So he would deposit the check and use that money to pay for his tuition. Now, mind you, the man paid her back, okay? He paid her back with cash, and he paid her back with services, meaning that if her car needs to be fixed, he would take it and pay for it. So at the end of the day, she got paid back in full, but he paid her back in cash and in services, so it couldn't be documented. Whereas with her, it was documented that she was helping him, because if you go back and look at the checks, they're written out to him, and in the subject line, it says for his tuition, right? That's very important. So a little rule of thumb for the younger cats: if you are going to write a check, I don't care what it's for, At the bottom, right for family, right uh, for school, right? So just in case later on in the future, you can say, hey, I was spending this money for school. Look at the checks that I wrote out, right? Or for rent. Make sure that you get in the habit of writing down what the check is being used for. And if you have to make up something, just say school, right? It's a school-related expense. Um, I don't want to get into the details, but trust me, later on, it can come back to help you if you have to go back and prove something over a significant amount of time. I'll just leave it at that. So anyways, nothing was really that serious. She gave him the money, he paid her back. It's a wrap, it's over, right? Or at least the man thought so. Now, he graduated, and mind you, this is like in the 70s, okay? So the world was pretty much different. And he got a great paying job, okay? Got a job at an accounting firm, and that's where my dad met him because my dad also got hired at that accounting firm. Um, and he made great money, but they weren't married. Then they got married, and they did do the whole prenup, okay? He wanted to protect what he had, and she wanted to protect what she had as well, even though she didn't necessarily work for it, but she had access to her family's money, so through association, she did have money as well. So they both thought it was in their best interest to get a prenup. Now, the divorce went sour, okay? It went sour, or the marriage went sour, and they got a divorce. But guess what? He thought that what he had made um, prior to the marriage was still good, right? They can't really touch that. They're only dealing with what I made during the marriage. But when they were going through the whole court process, her lawyer was able to show that his earning power was based off of her help, right? And they went back and they obtained the copies of the checks that were written out to him for his tuition. So they claim that if it wasn't for her help, he would not be where he is. So his earning potential is because of her. So she's entitled to some of the money that he has made, right? Even though they weren't married, because she invested in him, and she could have used that money for something else, and that's how her lawyer put it. So at the end of the day, she was still able to go back, right, and have access to what he built prior to the marriage, even with the prenup. That's what a lot of people have to understand. A prenup, it's not something that is set in stone. Really, it's not. And the point of the story, after my dad told me that, was to not accept anything from a woman. It doesn't matter if you love her. It doesn't matter if you're together. Do not accept anything, especially if it's financial. Okay? So what I'm saying to you is if you do decide to stay with her, don't accept money from her. Now, she can come off as a nice, good person, but at the end of the day, she's not going to respect you as a man because she helped you out. She's going to feel like your manhood is based off of what she did. Even though you may have paid her back, even though at the end of the day, it turns out you spent more money on her than she did on you, it still doesn't matter. And when you get older and you move on in that relationship and issues do happen, all of a sudden, the $30 book that she may have bought you when money was tight turns into, I supported you through college when you get into some argument later on in life. Real talk. So you don't want to have that on your plate. You don't want to give them leverage, even if it's pseudo leverage, because it will happen. Women have a bad habit of getting really nasty when they get upset. And to me, it's not the emotion talking. They're really saying how they feel. I made you. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have X, Y, and Z. So whether or not you stay with her, you don't accept money from her. Okay? Don't let her buy you books. Don't let her buy you groceries. Don't use her car. If you if you need to get to work, don't let her take you to work. Don't let her give you money or be involved in how you make money. Do not. Because at the end of the day, she will use that over your head. Maybe she'll, and I'm not saying that she'll do it on purpose because she's a bad person, but once again, women will always be women. I remember when my parents got into arguments, and mind you, my parents were together when they were in college. And overall, my dad was the one holding it down. Okay? Um, my dad worked first so that my mom can go to school, right? And when she was working, he then went back to school, and it was different back in those days, right? So my mom was making decent money first, and they used to get into arguments because my dad would be on some, you know what, you forgot what I was doing before, didn't you? I supported you, right? But you threw that out the window when you were supporting me. And they had a lot of arguments based off of that. Um, and I had to side with my dad on that one. You know, they had arguments where I sided with my mom, but as I got older, right, and, you know, my dad would talk about why the marriage failed because my parents are divorced. I'm like, oh, okay, right, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, mom was in the wrong on that one. Definitely. You know, she shouldn't have came at you like that, um, knowing what you did for her. Um, so you shouldn't. Don't accept anything. And it may seem hard to, and, you know, she'll be this nice, pleasant person, but trust me, when women get angry, it will come out. And maybe not now, but years down the line, it will come out. I supported you. And all of a sudden, something small, you know, the time she bought you groceries, or she may have paid for your cell phone bill when money was tight, gets inflated to, I carried you. Where would you be without me? Right? And in the case of the story I told you, that can actually happen. Right? My dad told me that. Even my uncles told me that. Not to accept anything from a chick, especially when you're in college. Don't do it. Because you never know what may happen. And if she's able to document that she had any sort of financial influence over your success, she may have access to what you've done. Right? You know, that one book could later on screw you over. So don't do it. Um, Even with gifts, man. Even if it's a birthday gift, anniversary gift, Christmas gift, be careful. You know, don't accept a TV. Don't accept a laptop. If you're talking about dinner or maybe a pair of shoes or a shirt or maybe a jewelry or something, maybe okay. But something that is very costly, don't accept it. Real talk, don't. Right? Um, Tell her to save her money. I don't need it. Right? I'm not going to accept it. She can cry and she get upset, but don't do it. Because once again, later on, that will come back to bite you in the ass. Right? And I know that may seem extreme, but all you're doing is protecting yourself. And quite frankly, she will respect you more. There's love and there's respect. Right? In order to have a happy relationship, obviously the woman has to love you, but more importantly, she has to respect you. And by not taking anything from her and doing it on your own, you are earning her respect, and you are taking away any sort of leverage or any sort of slight she can throw at your way later on when she's upset or when she's feeling herself, right, and trying to boost her own ego, talking about she made you, where would you be without me? So if you're going to stay with her, cool. Don't take anything. If you're going to break up with her, I can completely understand, and I really can't fault you. But either way, it's your choice and your choice alone, right? So that's just my take. Hopefully other men come on and share how they feel and, you know, their own personal stories, because I'm sure you guys have some, because a lot of you guys are older than me. So y'all take it easy. Y'all know the drill. God bless.